Fraud at Texas Children's Hospital. It's June 20th, 2024, and these are your headlines. Well, with Texas Children's Hospital's sterilization practices on minors now having been exposed, the state of Texas has taken action. Attorney General Ken Paxton has opened an investigation into the hospital following a second whistleblower coming forward this week and alleging that Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, their medical professionals, had committed Medicaid fraud within their sex change program. Investigative journalist and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, Chris Rufo, confirmed with a spokesperson for the Attorney General that Paxton is currently investigating Medicaid fraud at the hospital. According to Rufo, the only two possible avenues for the investigation are civil and criminal. Well, the story stretches back several years ago when the hospital flaunted public support for administering chemical castration drugs to children. After facing public pressure to discontinue those practices, CEO Mark Wallace announced that the program would be terminated. However, a whistleblower, Dr. Ethan Heim, who is a surgeon, a medical professional finishing residency at the hospital, disclosed to the media that the Children's Hospital was continuing to administer cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers to children. In June of last year, federal agents visited him, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Tina Ansari threatened him with prosecution. He was indicted this summer, and the Biden administration subsequently unsealed the 4-count charges, alleging that he got hold of personal information of patient names, treatment codes, and the attending physician using the hospital's electronic system without authorization. After learning about Heim's actions, a nurse at Texas Children's Hospital, Vanessa Savage, disclosed more information to Chris Rufo, revealing that doctors were encouraging confused patients to undergo those mutilation procedures. She was later visited by the FBI, which allegedly threatened her, saying she was not safe at work. After some time had passed, she learned that Texas law forbade hospitals from billing Medicaid for transgender procedures. State Representative Brian Harrison has called for House Speaker Dade Phelan to hold an emergency interim hearing in response to what he calls recent allegations of lawfare by Biden's Department of Justice against whistleblowers, exposing illegal and abusive sex change procedures on Texas children and possible Medicaid fraud by Texas Children's Hospital. In the latest move exposing tension between leadership in the House and the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has publicly condemned Speaker Dade Phelan for effectively killing legislation aimed at mandating the display of the 10 Commandments in public classrooms. The measure passed the Texas Senate but was stalled in the House last year, sparking outrage among its proponents. And now Louisiana has beaten Texas by becoming the first state to pass the measure into law. Patrick said Texas would have been and should have been the first state in the nation to put the 10 Commandments back in our schools. Well, the proposed measure was authored by Senator Phil King and passed the Senate. However, when the legislation reached the House, Phelan allowed it to languish in committee, ensuring it never reached a floor vote by placing it on the calendar far too late for actual consideration. Lieutenant Governor Patrick went on to say that every Texas House Republican member would have voted for it, but Speaker Dade Phelan killed the bill by letting it languish in committee for a month, ensuring it would never have time for a vote on the floor. This was inexcusable and unacceptable. Putting the 10 Commandments back into our schools was obviously not a priority for Dade Phelan. Senate Bill 1515 sought to require Texas public elementary and secondary schools to display the 10 Commandments in each classroom, a move aimed at recognizing America's historical and cultural heritage and instilling foundational values in students. Patrick accused Phelan of pandering to the Democrats who support his speakership, saying, "Here's the bill that Speaker Dade Phelan killed because the Democrats who put him in power opposed it." Brady Gray, the president of Texas Family Project, called the legislation a perfect example of the stark contrast between Texas's two legislative chambers. Despite the setback, Patrick has pledged to pass the legislation through the Senate again next session. State Representative Tom Oliverson, who's challenging Phelan for the speakership, says he is all in. Phelan did not return a request for comment.
Are you worried about your kid's future? You should be. I'm Charles Blaine with Texas Tomorrow. This is a show where we're going to talk about the issues and the people that are pushing the policies that concern your family, your home, and your kids. Catch Texas Tomorrow every Thursday.
A coalition of over 100 grassroots organizations has sent a letter to Governor Greg Abbott requesting an immediate special legislative session on two issues related to election integrity. The letter, which is actually signed by over 180 different people, requests legislation to create an independent state-level authority to prosecute crimes related to election integrity. They say this has become necessary because of a 2021 ruling, Texas v. Stevens, that removed longstanding authority to prosecute election crimes from the Office of the Attorney General. That was taken away by the Court of Criminal Appeals. And now, absent this authority, local district attorneys are the only offices that can prosecute those crimes. And given that local DAs are sometimes believed to benefit from these alleged crimes, or at least are close to those who do, activists feel that they're not likely to prosecute them, and we've certainly seen these in a lot of Texas's most populous counties. In addition, the letter calls for proof of citizenship for new voter registrations and a thorough examination of existing voter rolls to remove non-citizens and other ineligible registrations. Well, this has been a long-standing priority of party activists. It has taken on a new urgency following a recent report in the New York Post that the Biden administration is actively registering illegal aliens ahead of the 2024 election. And all of this comes after the Republican Party of Texas passed a resolution calling for a return to excellence in voting in elections, which is defined as a return to the simple and proven methods of precinct voting with auditable voting procedures using paper ballots in fair, reasonable, and limited time periods, using proper voter identification to strengthen voter confidence and ensure that election procedures can be a fair and open process for all to participate. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.